Joining us now for World Brief and the review of some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Adefemi Akinsanya. Good morning, Adefemi.
Oh, good morning, Dr. Rubin. Good morning, Ayo.
Happy International Women's Day.
Happy International Women's Day.
Looking good as always.
I saw you yesterday too, looking ravishing in black. Good morning to you, Rufai.
You celebrate International Women's Day.
Yeah.
International Women's Day, at least you bring gifts for the men that are
Can you imagine?
You don't do anything.
You guys
don't
have
see
your
gifts
day.
from
You have. There is such a thing as International Men's Day. It's just not as fantastic, is it?
Go ahead, Femi.
This is it.
I'm tired.
Good morning to you, viewers. Happy International Women's Day to you too. Let me tell you what's happening around the world. Iran's military and political establishment has pledged allegiance to Mojtaba Khamenei, who has been named the country's new supreme leader following the death of his father, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Meanwhile, the war does continue to intensify. The United States, as well as Israeli forces, have carried out fresh strikes across Iran, with explosions reported in both Tehran and the holy city of Qom. Earlier, Israeli attacks on oil facilities sent toxic smoke billowing across the Iranian capital also. Elsewhere in the region, air defenses at Erbil International Airport in northern Iraq intercepted a drone attack, and that's according to Kurdish media, where US forces are stationed. Now, another drone was also intercepted near Baghdad's international airport, while over in Dubai, at least one person has unfortunately been killed after debris from an intercepted missile or drone did strike a car, killing the driver. Now, moving on to Iran still specifically, and Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has struck a defiant tone in a new interview with NBC, insisting that Tehran is not seeking a ceasefire despite continued US and Israeli strikes. Now, Araghchi said Iran is prepared for a prolonged conflict and warned that any American ground invasion would be disastrous for US forces. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
President Trump has not ruled out boots on the ground in Iran. Are you afraid of a U.S. invasion in your country?
No, we are waiting for them.
You are waiting for the U.S. military to invade, the ground troops?
Yes, because we are confident that we can confront them, and that would be a big disaster for them.
Well, Araghchi also indicated that Iran, again, has not sought a ceasefire and sees no reason to negotiate with the United States following recent attacks. Let's move on now to another story. An interview between Nigerian presidential aide Daniel Bwala and journalist Mehdi Hassan on Al Jazeera's Head-to-Head is generating widespread reactions online. Now, in the program, which is called Nigeria Renewed Hope or Hopelessness, Hassan repeatedly confronted Bwala with past criticisms he made about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu while in opposition. Now, Bwala denied making some of the statements and argued that opposition politics often involves attacking the government of the day. Now, saying those remarks were made in a different political context. That was his explanation. Let's take a look at just a little portion of that interview.
He's a very rich man in a very impoverished country, and there's a lot of mystery as to where he got his wealth, estimated to be in the billions of dollars. What do you say to people who highlight allegations against him of, quote, massive corruption and misappropriation of funds?
That's their opinion.
Actually, it's your opinion. In January 2023, you talked about the legal petition against him that involves, quote, massive corruption and misappropriation of funds. You were in the opposition and were very critical of his wealth.
Exactly verbatim what I said, because what you just say is not a true representation.
January 22nd, 2023, you said the petition against him involves massive corruption and misappropriation of funds belonging to the government of Lagos State, abuse of official office, conflict of interest.
I wasn't the one that went to court. And at that time, where was I?
You were an opposition member.
Thank you.
So should we not trust you when you say things as opposition?
What is the job of opposition?
To oppose?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you know it.
For the sake of opposing? Not in budget. You're okay with that?
I think.
Do you think it's funny? I mean,
no,
two-thirds of Nigerians.
You think it's funny?
No, I don't. I think people who are giving $163 million back shouldn't be in charge of the country's budget.
Thank you.
What an entertaining interview. Well, that exchange has drawn mixed reactions, with some accusing Bwala of political flip-flopping, while others praised him for defending the administration under tough questioning. I wonder what you think about that. But going ahead now, Nigeria's presidency has released a confirmed list of ambassadorial appointments and diplomatic postings, signaling a new phase in the country's foreign policy. So you can see all of the names behind me here across all of the different countries. Now, among the appointments, you have Aminu Dalhatu, who has been deployed as Nigeria's ambassador to the United Kingdom, while Senator Jimoh Ibrahim has been named permanent representative to the United Nations. Now, political commentator Reno Omokri, he has also been appointed ambassador to Mexico. Well, the presidency says that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has directed the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to immediately begin induction and orientation programs for the ambassadors designate and high commissioners ahead of their formal deployment to their respective missions. Well, we wrap things up on our World Brief today with this video. You can see Japan's State Minister for Economic Security, who has now issued a public apology. She issued this apology to the entire country, and that apology came after she arrived 5 minutes late to a government meeting as she blamed heavy traffic for the delay. Well, footage shows that Kimi Onoda, that is her name, footage shows that Kimi Onoda was running towards the venue while her seat sat empty as the meeting began. Now, in Japan's political culture, punctuality is taken extremely seriously, and often small delays often come with formal apologies. So the minister bowed and acknowledged the inconvenience, saying that she deeply regretted keeping colleagues waiting, even if only briefly. Now, this level of punctuality might feel different in places where traffic delays are simply part of daily life. But I guess it's a very good example to show how strong the levels of punctuality are. Let's take a look at our newspaper headlines from across the world. As ever, we begin with the front page of This Day. This Day does lead with reports that the reconciliation of oil revenues due to the Federation accounts has stalled, and that is after the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, the NNPCL, and Periscope Consultants did fail to agree on this $42.3 billion under remittance, with the National Oil Company maintaining that it owes nothing to the Federation. So a lot of back and forth there. Also, as we know, This Day is reporting that Arise News honored 100 influential African women at the Africa Women of Impact Awards 2026 edition here in Lagos, celebrating the achievements across governance, business, healthcare, technology, and the creative industry. It was a wholly inspirational night. And lastly, wrapping things up with This Day, it does also report that the escalating conflict in the Middle East has pushed global oil prices above $115 per barrel. That is raising concerns again over inflation and rising fuel costs worldwide. Let's take a look at the New Telegraph this morning, because the New Telegraph is staying with oil, and it is reporting that petrol prices in Lagos have climbed to as high as essentially 1,100 litres. But we are seeing, if you look at the article, it does climb as high as 1,500. You do see that filling stations are selling fuel between 1,020, 1,080 naira per litre, while others are temporarily shutting down their operations. So clearly quite a tense situation at the pump here in Nigeria. We've got the Daily Sun up next, and the Daily Sun is reporting that governors elected on the platform of the APC, the All Progressives Congress, they are divided over the sharing of key national working committee positions. This is ahead of the party's 2026 National Convention, which is due to take place in Abuja shortly. Now, there are disputes over a multitude of issues, but primarily zoning, according to the Daily Sun. And then we have the Daily Independent this morning, which reports that tension is rising in Nigeria's banking sector as lenders are racing still to meet this recapitalization deadline by the end of the month, which was set by the Central Bank of Nigeria, with analysts predicting stronger capital buffers, possible mergers and acquisitions to help smaller banks or struggling banks get over the line. Next up, we do have the Daily Telegraph of the United Kingdom, which again is focused on what we're seeing in the Middle East. It is saying that the new supreme leader of Iran, Mojtaba Khamenei, was elected by clerics despite lacking the senior religious credential generally required. That is according to the Daily Telegraph. Next up, we have the Daily Mirror, which is looking at Tony Blair and his comments on this issue. He has claimed that Prime Minister Keir Starmer should have joined Donald Trump's war against Iran. That is according to the Daily Mirror. According to the paper, Labour MP John Trickett also called the ex-PM's record disastrous. I think many people would agree that when it comes to foreign policy, perhaps Tony Blair may have regretted getting involved in the American war in Afghanistan and Iraq, and it is ironic that he's encouraging Keir Starmer to involve himself in yet another war. Then we have the Daily Express, wrapping things up with the Daily Express, and we do have the fraught relationship between Sir Keir Starmer and Donald Trump, again making the front page of the newspaper. Sir Keir Starmer and Mr. Trump did speak on the phone yesterday after the US president accused the Prime Minister of trying to join wars after we've already won. It is important to note that no one has won this war in the Middle East as yet. Not that you can say that anyone has won anything, not that anyone should win anything when it comes to war, but those are your newspaper headlines and your world brief. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
All right, real quickly. Number one, let caution prevail. You're talking about strikes in the Kurdish area. The reason why Iran is activating those strikes is because the possibility, like CNN reported, that America might be using those Kurdish forces against the Iranian. You know the long-held, that drawn-out division between the Kurdish forces and the Iranian. But some of the people from the Kurdish party that have been interviewed said they don't want to get into this because you can't start where you don't finish. And I think America should go back and read history. You see, the problem with Donald Trump, I think somebody was speaking, was it Tucker or something, Tucker Carlson? I never knew that I'll be quoting Tucker so much. Tucker was speaking, and Tucker was trying to prove the point that the problem with Trump, that you have a lot of people lying to him around. This idea of getting in ground forces, let's go back historically. You know what happened in Vietnam? Vietnam was so bad that it took Walter Cronkite to go into Vietnam and did a report. And he said, this will end badly and it will end in a stalemate. That's why they pulled out. See Afghanistan. They were there for so many years. They got in ground troops there. It was such a big disaster. See the way Biden was disgraced out, with a lot of American artillery destroyed, and some of them in the hands of Afghanistan. Let's be careful. Another thing I want to warn them, please, you will start the scene for the next war. Femi, let me take you back. How did all of this Islamic insurgency start in the Middle East in the first place? I'll tell you. When the Cold War started in the late 60s, America thought the best way to fight the Russians were to fund the Mujahideens and other splinter Islamic group in the Russian Federation. And they started funding them up to 1990. You remember the movie Charlie Wilson's War?
No, I never watched.
Charlie Wilson's War. Charlie Wilson was the House of Rep official in America, the Congress official that went ahead and was providing support for this Mujahideen group. In fact, Femi, I'll take you back. In 1987, there was a movie released, a 007 movie called The Living Daylights by Timothy Dalton, where they acted the movie in such a way that 007 was allies with the Mujahideen that was fighting in Russia and the Soviet Union. And at the end of it, what happened? Chaos. The same people they funded and they left after the Cold War were the ones that came back for them. Just like Hamas. Who started funding Hamas, Femi? The Mujahma. Israel. Why were they funding Hamas back in the days? To fight Palestinian Liberation Organization, Fatah, Yasser Arafat. The same Hamas came after them. So let's be careful in this war of trying to cause division, because it will come back to haunt people. So what I've been calling for all day is ceasefire. Please, because of time, I will not talk about the other issues there.
Let me talk about the other issues. First of all, Daniel Bwala interview. Of course, this made, a number of conversations, was a number of conversation starters over the weekend. People are divided. More people saying that it was a disaster, it was a disastrous outing, not just for him personally, but for his principal, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and the administration he represents. Others are of the opinion that the interviewer was quite hard on him and wasn't very professional. So it depends on which side of the divide you are on. But let me just say that just looking at, watching that interview, a number of things come out. Number one, it was either that this opportunity was a bit above his pay grade, or it was a bit above what he was able to handle. Because whether or not, you take away the content of what he had said, was even the manner in which he handled the interview and some of the quality of his responses. The lady Aisha had said she wanted to sink into the ground. That's the one of the panelists there, as due to the level of embarrassment that was caused. But I think beyond that, sentiments aside, one of the things I want to just say is, number one, it showed standards. This, the title of the person being interviewed is Special Advisor to the President. To get to that level, you'd imagine that there's a level of professionalism and standard, and the best of the best when it comes to that line of work, who would be speaking on behalf of the president. So it was quite sad to see that the quality of spokespeople that we have demonstrated by that outing is at this level, where, you're being asked questions. You can't, there's such a thing as, diverting or trying to sidestep, but there's a way it can be cleverly done in such a way that you wouldn't even see it so glaring. But there were some questions that were just like, oh my goodness, did you prepare for this interview at all? And I thought that was a shame. And I think what has now come out is training and continuous training for people who act as spokespersons to the president, especially if you're going to be representing him at such an international level on an international stage, so that you don't become a laughing stock, not just to yourself, but, to the nation at large. There are so many brilliant communicators in Nigeria. There's so many people who are trained for this job. In fact, people have talked about how any country you go to, the United Kingdom, United States, across Africa, people undergo, specific training for this particular type of job, and it's not just done once, it is done continuously. So the fact that you're a lawyer and you've had many debate sessions doesn't mean that you are cut out for this kind of. I think it was just an opportunity for him to maybe sell his principles, sell the administration, but unfortunately that fell very short. Moved away from that very quickly to Japan. The story on Japan. Japan is known for punctuality. In fact, it is considered very rude to go for meetings late, and that's why you'd say 5 minutes for a minister was a huge deal. We can look at it, but another part of it is that they say once you start the meeting, they don't know when it ends. So when we're talking about time management, it's both the start of the meeting and for every meeting to have an end time, but it speaks more to culture. It's often said, Rufai says, culture will eat strategy for breakfast. It's in the simple things that you know how great a nation will be, in how the leaders treat time, how the leaders treat, conversations, or how they present themselves, how they conduct themselves. These are high, hallmarks of how strong a team is or how leadership is, and it's definitely worth emulating.
Definitely.
Okay, very quickly. Two issues with regard to Japan. Culture first. In a country where you have a concept they call karushi. Karushi means the culture of hard work. Now, it will look like you are negligent if you go late, or you are negligent at your duty post. So that's what the Minister Unoda was responding to. And she gave an excuse that there was an accident on the way. And for that reason, she had difficulties meeting the meeting. The other point about it is protocol. Even here in Nigeria, once the president is seated, and in this particular case, the Prime Minister Takaichi was already seated at the meeting. Even in Nigeria here, once the president is seated at council meeting, the door is shut. So you have to take express permission from the president for that door to be opened for you. So, and that's an embarrassing situation for somebody arriving late at, a meeting with the head of state. So those are the two issues there, culture and protocol. Now, the second issue is about the posting of ambassadors, which you brought up. So we're talking about protocol and diplomacy. Out of the 34 career ambassadors on that list, I find it curious that 27 of them were sent to African countries. Only, maybe 4 of them were sent to some other countries you may consider strategic, but it is Egypt and is it Tunisia that you have on that list? It is politicians, non-career ambassadors, that are the ones sent to the Americas, to Asia, to Australia. Many of these countries have strategic relationship with us. Those are the people who are going to what they will call juicy postings. They are not ambassadors for APCO. They are ambassadors for Nigeria.
Agreed.
And I think that that's something we should worry about. Finally, Iran, Middle East crisis. What we're witnessing is an escalation. Over the weekend, Israel attacked Iran. Iran also attacked Bahrain. Saudi Arabia had to intercept, missiles sent to drones sent to the Shabin, position. But the more oil field. But the more important thing, of course, is the emergence of Mojtaba Khamenei as the new spiritual leader, the new Ayatollah. Now, it's a statement of defiance and a rebuke to President Trump, who has said that he must have a say in the choice of who the leader of a sovereign country will be. It is also an act of continuity in the sense that, it's a dynastic statement. The son of the Ayatollah that was killed has now been put there. However, the foreign minister of Israel, that's Kaz, I think his name is Kaz, is saying that, in fact, if he says that death to Israel, meanwhile the Mojtaba has not spoken yet. If he tries it, that he too will be killed. And also the Americans, Senator Lindsey Graham is also saying that it's only a matter of time that he too will be eliminated by his father. So this hypocrisy of the United States, pretending that it can determine the sovereignty of other countries, is where the problem is. Meanwhile, the rest of the world is suffering on account of the escalation of hostilities in the Middle East, with the security chief of Iran saying if it comes to ground invasion, ground fight, that they are ready for America. Where does that leave the rest of the world? The G7 will be meeting to consider the Middle Eastern axis crisis. What would they come up with? What the world needs is peace.